Welcome to the RS Expert Advice Podcast. In each episode, we interview a trusted expert in the electronics industry to provide purchasers, engineers, installers, and maintainers with valuable insights into the product and technology solutions that can help them overcome common challenges and add real value to their workflows. We hope you enjoyed this episode and that you learned something useful and new. Today I'm talking to Tom Ballou, the Sales and Marketing Manager at Hammond Manufacturing, a trusted global supplier of transformers, racks, cabinets, and enclosures to the electrical and electronic industries. Welcome, Tom. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Please introduce us to Hammond Manufacturing. Tell us a little about your career there. I see that you've been part of the Hammond team for almost 17 years now, starting in sales and marketing, and nearly 2 years ago, getting promoted to your current position as Sales and Marketing Manager. I feel like that says a lot about the type of company Hammond is, and I imagine that you've learned a lot over the span of your career there.
Yes, so Hammond's a family company. It's been around for about 100 years. I haven't been around quite that long, but 17. I work in the Buffalo office. We're actually a Canadian company, but I handle U.S. sales, so I work with RS quite a bit. Been here for 17 years, worked at an electrical distributor before that, so that's kind of how I was introduced to the industry. It's not something that, a lot of kids are going to school for, but with a business background, you can kind of do anything. And being involved in electronics and the electrical industry was interesting to me. So I got a job here doing quotes and sales. So I learned quite a bit about the products and the applications and how they're used. So that kind of led me into this position that I'm in now.
Back in 2021, you participated in an RS Expert Advice Q&A about how to select the right electrical enclosure for a given environment. Today, we're also talking about enclosures, which seem to be a big part of Hammond's business for many decades now. But this time, we're talking about factory-modified electrical enclosures, which I think our listeners may be surprised to learn are available through RS.
Yes, RS is a great source for factory modified enclosures. Every enclosure is eventually going to be modified in some way. So each one is really just kind of a blank canvas that a user is going to poke some holes into it for input and output somewhere. They can buy them off the shelf at RS, but RS is unique in the fact that they have a really good outside sales force that allows them to get in front of those customers and understand the applications and work with them a little bit more closely when it comes to a modified enclosure, because that is a custom thing. It's really something where more hands-on relationship is necessary. So RS does a great job for us with that product line, or with that service rather. And it's something that we've had a lot of success with over the years.
What types of value-added customization capabilities can RS help Hammond's electrical enclosure customers take advantage of?
So enclosures themselves are a very general purpose product. They serve any industry. Different types of enclosures are specific to different industries. So when you boil it down, the basic use of an enclosure is a way to connect two or more electrical components. So the basic enclosure would be a junction box where a wire comes in and another wire comes in the other side, and they're connected in some way. So for that, you would need typically just a couple of holes in a box, but it gets a lot more complicated from there. So it's not just wires that are going in and out. There could be connectors, or there could be displays, or any type of component. And we can cut holes, cutouts. We can silk screen labels onto the surface of a box for any type of component that a customer could also be buying through RS. So it's kind of that whole package that they get from RS, and we're kind of that piece that holds everything together. As far as what types of applications, it depends really. The main consideration there is the environment. So if it's going on a factory floor, you'd want an enclosure with a NEMA 12 gasket that would keep oil and dust and contaminants out. If it's going in let's say a food and beverage factory where they'd be washing it down with hot water every night, you'd want something with a gasket that can withstand that type of environment. And they would want it also a hygienic enclosure, perhaps something with a sloped top where water isn't going to gather on top of it, because in an environment like that, you really can't have any bacteria. So that's an important consideration. And then there are other things as well. Climate control is a big one. If the enclosure is going to be in a really hot place, so if it's in the middle of the desert, and it's going to be subjected to sun, It can get really hot inside. So heat is really the enemy of electrical components.
Right.
So having fans or air conditioners could be an important thing. And then the reverse of that. So if it's in the middle of the Arctic Circle, and we're a Canadian company, so we know a lot about that. If it's going to be in the Arctic Circle, you don't want components freezing either. So it may be some sort of heater that goes on the inside of the enclosure. And then also materials of the enclosures are important considerations too. You wouldn't want something that can be brittle in the cold. If it's going to be in an outdoor environment in the cold, you want something more robust. So a million different considerations. Luckily, we've got enclosures for all those types of applications, and RS has them on the shelf or could be factory modified by Hammond.
So you mentioned that most Hammond customers interested in buying factory modified enclosures are already buying standard products from you guys. So
Mhm.
um, the 1590 series general purpose die cast aluminum enclosures, 1455 series extruded and anodized aluminum enclosures, and 1554 series type X, 4X polycarbonate enclosures are all popular with customers and available through RS.
Mhm.
Given that they're all made from different materials, I'm assuming they're ideally suited for different types of application environments. You sort of mentioned that, material is, dependent on the application environment as far as, heat and cold.
Mhm.
So, could you briefly touch on which of those materials, you've got the die cast aluminum, the anodized aluminum, and the polycarbonate, like which types are optimized for different, application environments?
Environment is a big concern. Also, cost
Oh,
can be a concern.
oh,
So, when we're talking about plastic, it oftentimes is just a little bit cheaper to have a plastic enclosure. So, I thought I would mention that as well. But typically, with a 1590 series or a 1455 series, when we're talking about that type of aluminum, it's an indoor application. So the form factor can matter a lot. So if a customer has a PC board that's going to slide into an enclosure and they want to assemble it that way, 1455 series could be perfect for that. 1590 series is a more of a box and a lid, a more traditional enclosure. Both really popular for us. And then the 1554 is actually an outdoor rated enclosure, small enclosure, inexpensive enclosure with really good watertight ratings. And we can modify all of those in house, so it's not we're really not limited to any specific type of material as far as machining goes. We can do all of that right in house.
so the polycarbonate is weather resistant, like it can withstand the heat and the cold.
Yeah, so it's the 1554 series polycarb are a UL type 4X, 6, and 6P rated enclosures, so they can really withstand a lot of different environments, even submersion environments. They can be
Really?
water, underwater. Yep. Yeah. So
Wow.
you really a big bang for your buck when you're talking about small enclosures like the 1554s.
What is the typical turnaround time on a factory modified enclosure order?
Typically, the turnaround time can vary depending on the type of work we're doing.
Mhm.
So if it's a standard enclosure that just has a few holes, typically we can pull that right off of our shelf in our warehouse and start machining that pretty quickly. Turnaround time on that is usually just a couple of weeks. If it's more complicated, if we're talking about molding it maybe in a special color or fabricating it to a special size or something like that, it can be extended from there. But typically, easy modifications, meaning holes, maybe we're printing on the surface of the box. It's just a few weeks turnaround time. That cost is all included in a quote. So what's pretty cool is we issue a custom part number. Um, that would be, something that a customer can just order this part number from RS um, instead of the part number they're used to ordering, and that includes all the modifications. So if they ever need to come back and reorder that later, they can just order that custom part number.
Oh, that's
Um,
really cool. That
yeah,
saves
and
time.
our process is pretty cool too, in that we're really focused on the quality, right? So it's not we're not focused necessarily on, oh, we're going to get this out to you in 5 days. We're going to say we're going to get this done correctly. So we're going to have a drawing approval where a customer needs to sign off on something that is exactly what they need, and then we actually overnight a sample as well. So we machine a single enclosure and send it out to them. A lot of times they're going to want to test that with their PC board. They're going to put the PC board in there and make sure that it fits properly. And I would say more than half the time when that happens, they come back and say, you know what, Tom, I need to move over this hole by 5/1000ths of an inch. That's going to make it absolutely perfect. But we give them that chance to do it. So by the time they actually receive a custom order from us, it's perfect.
That is serious value in customer service there. 5/1000ths of an inch.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy, right? It's the thickness of a human hair that they want to move something over, but it's critical for them.
Yeah, that's impressive. I love that. I love that you send a sample. I think that's great.
We think it's kind of the secret sauce for our program, really, because like I said so many times, it's not a mistake. It's just they find, wow, you know what? If this was just a little bit different, it would be absolutely perfect, and then we make it perfect.
I mean, yeah, that's the difference between just having them approve a drawing and then really sending them that proof of to test. So part of Hammond's service excellence strategy is providing customers with exactly what they need when they need it, as demonstrated. Um, y'all have touted a 95% fill rate from stock, which prevents customers from having to take on more inventory than they need at present,
Mhm.
along with a 10-day backorder recovery and quick, reliable deliveries to help customers avoid costly project delays. The electronics industry supply chain, though, has been subject to rampant shortages and delays ever since the start of the pandemic. So, how is Hammond fulfilling its service excellence strategy in this environment? Have you been able to continue this, bar of service?
We've been lucky to have a good partner with RS who stocks so much of our product, right? So there's a really good buffer there when the demand went way up in 2021 and 2022. We carry a lot of inventory, kind of a weird amount of inventory for the industry. We have a lot backing that up, and that backs up RS. So there's a lot on the shelf, plus there's ours, and so that was able to act as a buffer. And our inventory did wind up coming down significantly, but because we manufacture so much of our product in North America, we were able to kind of wait out the storm, as it were. So as things got really bad, we were ramping up our production, and by the time things got really bad and our inventory had come down, we were able to backfill that in. So we were lucky to have a partner like RS in that way. And I like to think that we were a good partner to them in the supply chain as well. So customers didn't wind up seeing too many interruptions when it came to Hammond products.
Thoughtful planning. That's the same kind of solid business decisions that have probably trickled throughout the company and have kept you there for so long.
I think so. And you know what? I think after the past couple of years, a lot more companies will be having a similar strategy where they're going to carry more inventory than they had before.
Is there anything else you'd like our listeners to know about Hammond Manufacturing or its factory modified enclosure capabilities, which, as we've mentioned, customers can access by working with RS?
Yeah, I would just mention that talking to an RS salesperson is a great place to start. They have a knowledgeable sales team with a lot of experience selling Hammond enclosures, and are located all over the country. So we can easily work with them and you to come up with a custom solution. We've had a lot of success in the past, and we're looking forward to a lot more.
Well, thank you so much for speaking with us today, Tom, and thank you to our listeners for joining us on this episode of the RS Expert Advice Podcast. For more information about Hammond Manufacturing, please visit www.hammfg.com. For a complete collection of expert advice content, including more episodes of the RS Expert Advice Podcast, please visit us.rs-online.com/expert. Thanks again.